Hello there, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph, and I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So here we are, we're back at the Battle of the Bands on day number 10, March the 10th, with two new bands fighting it out. These bands are well known to me. I've listened to a fair bit of their stuff over the years. I own one album by one of the bands. The other one I did own an album by, but I'm not sure what happened to it. It was a vinyl one, so it might have went with my collection to my sister. So anyways, we got two bands I like quite a bit. Both these bands, of course, are a little bit similar. Ben tends to like to match similar type bands up against each other, at least in the first round anyways. So the one band has an album currently in my playlist, and it's been up there for about 2 months now, and I'm only now just really starting to like it. And I find with this band that it's like that with them. It takes me a while to get into them. They almost like a bit of an acquired taste. The other band, not as much so, but was a little bit surprised by this album because it was heavier than I'm used to this band being. Okay, so the two bands are Uriah Heep, and the album is Look at Yourself from 1971. The other band is Golden Earring and Seven Tears, also from 1971. That seems to be a favorite year for Ben. He likes that year for some reason. A lot of choices so far from that year. Okay, so we'll start with the Uriah Heep since that was the first one. Pretty heavy album for the most part, but it has its quiet moments too. But a lot of heavy riffing, and the vocals are often in that screeching range. Actually, I wouldn't say his vocals are screeching. They're more like screaming. I like to differentiate between the two. Screeching is when the voice is breaking and you're getting that ear-piercing sound. And screaming is when it's just really high-pitched. Give you an example. Ian Gillan to me is a screamer. David Lee Roth is a screamer. Steven Tyler is a screecher, for sure he is. And Peter Hamill's a screecher, but not in a good way. I don't really like screechers. I do like screamers though. Okay, so anyways, lots of that kind of heavy screaming, and a very high end pitch here. Lots of good keyboards on this album. Pretty heavy riffing on a couple of tracks as well, like fairly consistently with the heavy riffing, I think. I like the vocals on Uriah Heep. Took me a while to get used to his vocals. They're very different than what I'm used to. There's a couple tracks here. The one What Should Be Done has a kind of a piano opening. It's a little softer, but it has this Bowie quality to his vocals. It doesn't sound like Bowie too much, but he's certainly in that range and has a little bit of that sound to his voice on that track. Lots of good keyboards. A couple of the tracks almost have a Deep Purple sound to them. I think it's because of the keyboards, because they're Hammond organ keyboards, which they're quite famous for playing. My favorite track on this one is Shadows of Grief. It's a very heavy riff. The vocals are loud but effective. I don't think they're bad. Like, even though he's screaming a little bit high, they're pretty effective. I like the strong drum parts and the more subdued parts on this song as well. It's a pretty strong track. Overall, I found the album very good. That particular track I gave a 7, mostly 5s and 6s here. Pretty solid album through and through. Uriah Heep takes a little bit longer for me to get into. So they're not one of those bands I initially, especially with hard rock, I tend to like or dislike something almost fairly quickly. With them, it's a little bit longer because I think they have a little bit more progression to their music than a lot of hard rock bands do. So on to Golden Earring. Golden Earring is a band who surprised me. I didn't realize they had so many studio albums. They have like 26 studio albums. That really surprised me. I did not think they had that many. I thought okay, maybe they got 6 or 7 and that they stopped at a certain point. But they're making stuff right up until the turn of the century. A pretty solid band. They're also Dutch. A lot of people may or may not know that, but they're a Dutch band. They have some melancholy parts to their song, usually at the beginning. They tend to have this habit of having a bit of a slow kind of melancholy kind of kind of intro, I guess is what you want to call it. Lots of piano on this album as well, and keyboards. It's a very keyboard and piano oriented, and it's pretty similar to Uriah Heep that way. They're actually fairly similar bands. I find Golden Earring is maybe not quite as heavy, but I think the instrument, the people that play instruments on Golden Earring, the guitar player especially, and the bass player, those two are very strong. They may be stronger than anybody on the Uriah Heep album. That's just a personal reflection and opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Most of their stuff is pretty much the same, kind of quiet openings with lots of kind of heavy guitar riffing, and the bass is pretty forward on this, more so than on the Uriah Heep. I find that the bass player is very, very quick to be at the front. He's pretty strong too. The last track on the album is kind of a bit bluesy, kind of similar to the last track on Uriah Heep, but both kind of bluesy, but not too bluesy. Just a hint of it. The vocals are strong, but very subdued, a little bit subdued, but powerful at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense. Subdued in that they're not really loud, but strong, like still strong, even though they're not really particularly loud. And some excellent, tasty guitar on that song as well, with some nice instrumentation all over that track. My favorite track, She Flies on Strange Ways. It's keyboard opening with some very strong vocals here. Then it gets into this real heavy riffing and bass, and just a really strong guitar solo here. Yeah, this song is real catchy. I like this a lot. She Flies on Strange Ways is the name of it. They both had 7 tracks. Yeah, 7 tracks on their albums, both of them. But all pretty strong, fairly good compositions that last 4 to 5 minutes with lots of stuff in them. They're both very similar that way. So it came down to which one did I like better? I think, given time, the Uriah Heep album probably would be the one I liked better. Just based on what I heard from both. But for this challenge, I think the Golden Earring album was just a little bit better. Like, it had a few more 6s and less 5s than the Uriah Heep album. But, it's a real tight battle here. I almost had to flip a coin, but in the end I decided I would go with the Golden Earring. I think mostly because it hit me better for a first time listen than the Uriah Heep one. I think given 2 or 3 listens to it might flip around, but because I only listened to them once, I think I'm going to give the Golden Earring one the edge here. So Golden Earring will move on to round 2. And unfortunately, I would have liked to hear more of this Uriah Heep album, but it's going to have to pass for now. I did put both of them on my list the Uriah Heep album was actually on my list already to buy, because all the Uriah Heep albums are on that list. Golden Earring, I put this album, but I also put them in the same way. So they're both very similar bands. If you like one, you'll probably like the other. So excellent albums tonight. A couple more really good things on the. These were actually 2 bands I knew quite a bit of too. So it was kind of a a little bit of a different change than it was from the other bands previous to that. Anyways, I hope you like this video. Please like and give your comments below if you have any to make about either band or about anything I've said, or correcting something I said, or asking me about something. Any of that stuff is good with me. If you want to make them, go right ahead. Please subscribe. It's much appreciated. Helps me out and motivates me. Anyways, I'm getting a bit tired now, so I probably should say goodnight, and you have yourself a good one. This will come out in the morning, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.